everyone, and welcome. You're watching the EBC international coverage of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Ken Cruz, coming to you from Fort Washington, Maryland. Tonight we'll hear from several of our correspondents here in the U.S., in Canada, and in Latin America. Thomas Likeness, Edmonton, Alberta.
A major Canadian meat processor is set to reopen.
May Bondo Ramos, Washington, D.C.
And Trump issues executive order to keep meat plants open. And Joe Biden receives 2 key endorsements.
May Ann Manzano Buerzon, Sicklerville, New Jersey.
New Jersey will reopen parks and golf courses on Saturday, the first major step in easing COVID-19 lockdown restrictions.
Philip Toledo, Atlanta, Georgia.
Data trends hopeful as Georgia starts to reopen.
Nanita Manawas, Dallas, Texas.
Texas governor announces the first phase of reopening Texas.
Brendel Beheron, Seattle, Washington.
Washington State relaxes restrictions on recreational activities.
John Akuma, Los Angeles, California.
Los Angeles County Public Health Department launches the Cover Up LA County Initiative.
Nadine Duenas, Ciudad de Guatemala, Guatemala.
Guatemala in state of calamity until June 4th.
Danica Era Peralta, Medellin, Colombia. May de Villa, Ciudad de Panama, Panama.
Panama cedulas to serve as debit cards.
Plus, tonight, we have a treat for you for our Nail 8 art bands. If you can't go out and enjoy the cherry blossoms, why not have them on your fingertips? But first, an overview of how the world looks now. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, April 29th, 2020, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is more than 3,100,000. This includes more than 1 million in the U.S. and more than 52,000 in Canada. Sadly, this virus has claimed more than 224,000 lives worldwide. This number includes more than 59,000 deaths in the U.S. and more than 3,000 in Canada. Our coverage begins now. A major Alberta meat processor is set to reopen. In Edmonton, Alberta, Thomas I. Likeness reports.
Well, good evening, Ken. We've been telling you about that large meat processing plant. It's actually in High River, which is in southern Alberta. And for the past couple of weeks, it's been shut down. It's owned by Cargill. The closure was the result of the COVID-19 pandemic. There was a big outbreak there. The plant now says it will reopen on Monday. About 2,000 people work there, and more than half of that workforce is from High River's Philippine community. Many of them are temporary foreign workers. Now, there's no indication from the company as to the level of production they're going to do before the outbreak. To give you an idea of how big this plant was before the outbreak, Cargill handled about 4,500 head of cattle a day. 4,500 animals a day went through that plant. The plant produces about 1/3 of Canada's beef. Well, Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, has been involved with this from day one, and she says she's been assured by the company that it's made all the measures to prevent the spread of infection. Once the plant reopens again, everything should be in place.
And with respect to the plant itself, again, it's really important to know that Alberta Health Services has been on site multiple times to ensure that they're aware of the restrictions that are in place. And I think the plant site itself at this point has been fully cleaned. And so the question would be making sure that employees know that they're supported if they're not feeling well.
Now, the employees there have had a lot of concerns over the past couple of weeks, over the past month, in fact, since the first case began, and then it just kept snowballing. They're concerned. A lot of them are fearful. A lot of them don't know whether they want to go back to work. Hinshaw had this to say to workers who are thinking about going back.
So what I would say to workers who are wondering, is it safe for me to go back when this plant opens? I would say, Alberta Health Services has been working very, very hard to phone every single worker at the Cargill plant to make sure that they have the information that they need about the practices that will keep them safe and prevent exposure in any setting that they're in. And I know that Alberta Health Services has been working, again, with those employees, with the plant to consider what other methods of transportation might be possible to limit spread that might be present if many people are carpooling together.
Just how big was that outbreak? Well, Hinshaw says to date, there have been 821 cases of coronavirus confirmed at the plant. One worker has died from the infection. Now, just down the road, about 2.5 hours away, in a place called Brooks, Alberta, also in the southern part of the province, there's a JBS beef plant. It also produces about a third of the country's beef, similar in capacity to the one in High River. 276 people there have been infected. One has died. That plant is presently operating at reduced capacity. Now, I want to give you a quick update before I go here on the flooding in Fort McMurray. Just got a lot of this information in within the last hour and a half. The water is still backed up. Nearly 13,000 people have been forced from their homes. One person in the region has died as a result of the flooding. Low-lying areas in the downtown part of Fort McMurray, that's all underwater. Now, the government is easing restrictions for volunteers and workers who are sandbagging and doing other flood prevention work. I mean, you can't do this with the distancing and the limits on people. So workers can gather in groups of more than 15. The distancing isn't required because, again, they're trying to hold back that river with the sandbags and everything. But these exemptions only apply to those working on flood mitigation. Everybody else has to follow the rules. Premier Jason Kenney shipping more personal protective equipment to the city, and the provincial government is also helping out financially. Every adult who has had to evacuate their home will be given $1,250. Every dependent child, $500. That's to help cover the expense of the evacuation. In the meantime, I wish you all good health. Take care of others. Take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Appreciate it, Tom. So, with such a large amount of the population in your area working in the meat processing plant, I'm sure that you know someone or know of someone that is working in one of those plants. What's the general consensus as far as positivity for going back to work, for any of these employees?
Well, I've seen a lot of interviews of people, and you hear a lot from people who know people in these plants, and you hear a lot from the workers themselves. They're afraid. They're afraid because, again, in these plants, you're working in a very crowded environment, and 2,000 people. Even if you're running 24 hours a day, that's still 600 people at a time in one of those plants. That's just an outbreak waiting to happen. Now, they say they've tried to minimize things. I think they've got plexiglass now between the workstations. Cargill is very, they're not very forthcoming about what they're doing. And I think to a degree that's for competitive reasons. They don't want their competitor knowing what they're doing. But we're not exactly sure what measures are being put in place, whether they're going to slow down production. If they slow down production, perhaps they can spread the workers out a little more along the assembly lines. But those details they haven't given us. But certainly the workforce is fearful. They're unionized workers, and union leaders say they're also concerned.
Well, I'm sure that we'll be hearing more of this as far as updates once the actual reopening has commenced. So we're looking forward to hearing that from you, Tom. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ken.
President Donald Trump issues an executive order to keep meat plants open, and Joe Biden receives 2 key endorsements. Eagle News correspondent May Bondoc Ramos in Washington, D.C. has the details.
Thank you, Ken. Although it's very trendy to be on a vegan diet or a keto diet, many Americans still love their meat. Whether it's a juicy hamburger or a plate of ribs, we have been accustomed to the readily available supply of meat. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, as what Thomas has just reported, here in the US, we also have reports that meat plants are shutting down. The Washington Post reported that Tyson's Foods, which is one of the largest meat processor, warned that the US food supply chain is breaking. They further reported that John Tyson, company chairman of Tyson Foods, took out an advertisement stating the following: "This means one thing. The food supply chain is vulnerable as pork, beef, and chicken plants are being forced to close. Even for short periods of time, millions of pounds of meat will disappear from the supply chain." CNN also reported that meat processing and packaging plants are suspending operations temporarily due to coronavirus outbreaks. They reported that some pork processing plants have been hit especially hard and are closing, and they are Smithfield Foods in South Dakota, JBS Pork in Minnesota, and Tyson Fresh Foods in Iowa. Due to this, just yesterday, April 28th, President Trump signed an executive order that requires that meat processing plants stay open. He invoked the Defense Production Act of 1950. Because some states have closed some meat processing facilities, President Trump stated in the executive order, I quote, "Such closures threaten the continued functioning of the national meat and poultry supply chain, undermining critical infrastructure during the national emergency." The order further states, under the delegation of authority provided in this order, the Secretary of Agriculture shall take all appropriate action under that section to ensure that meat and poultry processors continue operations consistent with the guidance for their operations jointly issued by the CDC and OSHA. According to CNN, when they spoke to some meat plant workers, one worker was reported as saying, as I quote, "All I know is this is crazy to me because I can see all these people going back to work. I don't think people are going back in there." How this order will be implemented and enforced still remains to be seen, as it was just signed yesterday. Most Americans want to have the ability and convenience to buy meat, but they also want to make sure that it's done in a way that is safe for all those involved in the meat and poultry industry. I'll admit, I enjoy a good steak every now and then, but not at the expense of someone's health or safety. Let's hope this executive order can ensure a safe way that meat processing plant workers can continue their work so that all of us can benefit. Now, let's talk about U.S. politics. Former Vice President and presumptive Democratic candidate for President Joe Biden received two key endorsements. One from former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton and current House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Please watch the endorsement of Hillary Clinton.
I want to add my voice to the many who have endorsed you to be our president. Just think of what a difference it would make right now if we had a president who not only listened to the science, put facts over fiction, but brought us together, showed the kind of compassion and caring that we need from our president.
In addition to the endorsement of Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden also received the endorsement of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. He said in her endorsement through a pre-recorded message, as I quote, "Today, I am proud to endorse Joe Biden for President of the United States because he will be an extraordinary president." And what some might say would be a veiled criticism of President Trump, she stated, I quote, "As we face coronavirus, Joe Biden has been a voice of reason and resilience with a clear path to lead us out of this crisis." Unquote. Though the pandemic has changed our lives and nothing is business as usual, there are something that remain the same. As the 2020 presidential election draws near, it appears to be politics as usual. In Washington, D.C., May Bondo Cremos, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Ken.
Appreciate it, May. I'm also a big fan of any cut of steak, but in your report you mentioned the Defense Production Act of 1950. For those of us watching that don't know what that is, can you shine some light on that?
Yes, for a brief background or brief preview of what Defense Production Act means, according to FEMA.gov, the Defense Production Act gives the executive branch substantial powers. It allows the president, largely through executive order, to direct private companies to prioritize orders from the federal government. The president is also empowered to allocate materials, services, and facilities for national defense purposes and take actions to restrict hoarding of needed supplies. Due to the unfortunate circumstances of the meat industry, President Trump invoked this act. And
appreciate it, May. Thank you for your report again. When we come back, more live updates from our Eagle News correspondents. We'll return shortly. Stay with us.
Magtatagumpay tayo, salamat. Kung mag-fail tayo, salamat. Ang importante po, sinubukan natin, ginawa natin yung makakaya natin.
Napatunayan ko na yung talent na binigay sa akin ng Diyos, mas may expose pa. Kaya sa mga ibang artist dyan, lalo na sa mga may kapansanan din, mag-explore pa tayo ng ibang bagay tulad nito. Huwag tayong magtago, huwag tayong mahihiya. Gawin natin kung ano yung gusto talaga nating gawin.
This program is presented by SMC Infrastructure, building a better world.
Vet-approved Nutri-Chunks, the only premium dog food with active boost for optimum energy and probiotics that help strengthen immunity. Just like Catherine Bernardo, gawing listo ganado ang fur babies nyo. Listo ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
Co-presented by Kubert, expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Kubert, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions.
Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee. Masarap, mabango, at healthy pa. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist.
New San Jose Builders Incorporated. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty.
In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint. Color for protection for your home. Matimco. Matimco is wood. Wood is Matimco. R Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CompuZell Computer Services, ID card and lanyard manufacturer.
Saisho International Trading Corporation.
DN Steel. EMAC UPVC Roof Corporation.
The successful development of TPLEX, or Tarlac Pangasinan La Union Expressway in 2009, a 4-lane toll road that extends from Tarlac City to Rosario La Union, with an additional approved extension of 56 kilometers all the way to San Juan La Union. This is expected to reduce travel time to Baguio and other provinces in northern Luzon. Realizing the vision of creating a better world for Filipinos fueled the team's focus.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutri-Chunks. With active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
Welcome back. You're watching the EBC International coverage of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Ken Cruz in Fort Washington. New Jersey will reopen parks and golf courses on Saturday, the first major step in easing COVID-19 lockdown restrictions. Mayan Manzano Buerzon in Sicklerville, New Jersey reports.
Let's begin with New Jersey's latest numbers of COVID-19 cases. Total number of New Jerseyans tested positive, 116,264. New cases reported today, 2,481. New deaths is 329, and New Jersey's total fatalities is 6,770. Putting this number in perspective, as Governor Murphy said in today's press briefing, is more than the New Jerseyans lost in World War I, Korean War, Vietnam War, both Afghanistan and Iraq Gulf Wars, Superstorm Sandy, and 9/11 combined. New Jersey remains to be a hotspot, being the second U.S. state with the most number of COVID-19 cases after the state of New York. Now on to the headline. Governor Murphy announced in his daily COVID-19 press briefing that he is signing an executive order allowing state parks and all golf courses to reopen starting Saturday morning and restoring the authority of county government to determine whether county parks will be open or closed. This is the governor's first major step in slowly reopening the state and easing coronavirus lockdown restrictions. However, parts of state parks like playgrounds, pavilions, visitor centers, and restrooms will remain closed, and a limitation of 50% capacity on parking. Governor Murphy also stressed that picnics, organized activities, and team sports remain prohibited, and visitors and golfers are strongly encouraged to wear face coverings and practice social distancing. We understand that New Jerseyans want to get outside and get some fresh air as the weather warms up. However, this should not serve as an open invitation to rush back to normalcy and break the necessary social distancing measures we've put in place, said Murphy. If we see congregation of people and they're not social distancing, they're not wearing face masks, we will reconsider, the governor added. The order also opens golf courses so long as they adapt minimum social distancing policies and recommends that employees, players, and other individuals on the golf course wear face coverings. In Sicklerville, New Jersey, May and Manzano Garzon, Eagle News, who will live in interesting times.
May, I appreciate that. So regarding the reopening of the parks and golf courses, how about the other non-essential businesses? What's the plan for those to reopen?
And with non-essential businesses, including schools, remain closed in New Jersey. On Monday, when Governor Murphy unveiled his 6-point roadmap to reopen the state, he did not provide a specific timetable for non-essential stores. He just said that, amongst other conditions, that the state need to see first a 14-day trend showing drops in number of coronavirus cases. Ken?
So also, man, every state's one of their most popular things to reopen, or topics to reopen, or places to reopen, is the beach. I think Memorial Day is coming around. What's the plan for New Jersey for Memorial Day in regards to the beaches reopening?
Well, Ken, unfortunately, the decision to reopen parks and golf courses does not include beaches in New Jersey. However, Governor Murphy said that reopening parks could be a barometer for lifting some of his other restrictions. So if we behave well, I guess, hopefully soon, on or before Memorial Day. Ken?
I hope the people in New Jersey are on their best behavior. Thank you, Mayan. Data trends are hopeful as Georgia starts to reopen. In Atlanta, we have Eagle News correspondent Philip Toledo with more.
Thank you, Ken. As of this evening, the Georgia Department of Public Health is reporting 25,634 confirmed cases of COVID-19, as well as 1,095 deaths statewide. Now, furthermore, the past several days, this department has been releasing more and more data about the trends of the virus. This comes after Governor Brian Kemp received a lot of backlash over the last couple of days on his decision to allow businesses to start reopening this past week. As we reported on this last week, local critics, including the Atlanta Mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, as well as President Trump even weighed in, making comments that he disagreed with the timing of Governor Kemp's decision. Mayor Bottoms posted on Twitter earlier this week a chart showing the cumulative trend of COVID-19 cases. So in other words, every day as more cases are added, the graph or the curve, if you will continue to get bigger. And she posted this challenge to Governor Kemp, basically saying he was making these decisions based upon data. Now, in response to this, over the weekend, the Georgia Department of Health Commissioner, Dr. Kathleen Toomey, issued a video reassuring the public of positive trends in case data from her department. She cited, quote, encouraging data from public health officials that flu-like illnesses had a, quote, downward trajectory. She also said, and I'm quoting here, over a 14-day period, we can demonstrate a decline in positive COVID-19 tests as a percentage of total tests. She also cautioned the public that as testing ramps up, priority here in Georgia, we will see a rise in the positive cases. She mentioned partnerships with various institutions to increase testing and hospital readiness that show that Georgia is, and I'm quoting again here, on the right track, working hard to ensure the health and well-being of all Georgians. Now, since that, the department has been posting more extensive data, including the total number of tests completed, which as of today is a little bit over 140,000 tests, and charts showing the new case count and COVID deaths day by day have actually been trending downwards over the last 14 days. Now, that does sound very hopeful, but the caveat there is that data over the last 14 days is subject to change. You can have people who maybe they're waiting on the results of the test, or they were infected and they haven't shown symptoms yet. As those cases actually get reported, those numbers will change. And so we'll have to wait over the next several days to see if those data trends really do pan out. Now, Governor Brian Kemp is really trying to capitalize this and to post a lot of hopeful data points, including yesterday being the lowest day of ventilator usage here in the state since the pandemic started. This is being communicated as tomorrow is the last official day of the statewide shelter in place. Those that are elderly and medically fragile still have a stay-at-home order through the middle of May, but essentially the rest of the state can begin to reopen as early as Friday. Now, locally, many businesses have had mixed reactions to this. Some have decided not to open, some are opening, but really everyone is just being very cautiously optimistic as we see what the next few weeks have in store. In Atlanta, Georgia, and Toledo, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Philip, appreciate it. So, I mean, as you reported, and as you know, Georgia's been probably one of the most highly reported states in the nation past week. How about your family specifically? Are you guys actually ready to head outside?
Shortly, we could if we wanted to, but we're choosing not to. We're very thankful that my wife is a teacher and all the schools are closed or doing online learning for the rest of the year. With my job, I'm able to work from home most of the time, and then we take turns going into the office. We're both home, so we don't have to take my son to daycare. Our faith is also very important to us, and we're able to hold our worship services online from home right now, so there's really no need for us to leave. So we're making the decision to stay inside as much as we can until we have some positive data to help us feel more comfortable.
So I guess data will drive you as far as going out or staying in the next coming weeks, I'm guessing, right?
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, Philip. Thank you so much for your report. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announces phase 1 of reopening the state. Nanita Manawas in Dallas has the report.
Thanks, Ken. So last Monday, the 27th of April, Governor Abbott of Texas announced the first phase of the state's ongoing plan to safely and strategically open Texas while minimizing the spread of COVID-19. Phase 1 begins this Friday, May 1st, and will continue until May 18. Under Phase 1, certain services and activities are allowed to open with limited capacity. Executive Order GA-18 stated that retail stores, restaurants, malls, And even museums and libraries are permitted to operate starting May 1st, but they are only allowed up to a capacity of 25%. However, food court in dining areas, play areas, interactive areas in malls and in museums must remain closed. Occupancy limits of 25% could go up to 50% for Texan counties which have 5 or fewer confirmed cases of COVID-19, and also if they comply to the standards and protocols promulgated by the Department of State Health and Services, or DSHS. To help Texans understand phase 1, the governor's report to Open Texas has been uploaded and made available on the governor's strike force website. The report outlines new protocols, guidelines or guidance, recommendations, and also include a series of the Open Texas checklist, which defines DSHS minimum standard health protocols for individuals, employees and employers, as well as industry-specific protocols. Also in the governor's report to Open Texas, there is a special guidance for Texans who are over 65 years old. And there is also a comprehensive mitigation plan for nursing homes in Texas. The report also provides details about the contact tracing program. Developed and implemented by DSHS, this statewide testing and tracing program will help identify individuals who have contracted COVID-19 and those who may need to be quarantined or be tested due to potential exposure. Governor Abbott said, in quote, "The strategic approach of opening the state of Texas prioritizes the health and safety of our communities and follow the guidelines laid out by our team of medical experts." As of today's statistics, Texas has 27,054 cases reported, 732 fatalities, and 12,507 recovered. Reporting from Dallas, Texas, I'm Anita Manawis. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Ken.
Thank you, Anita. Appreciate it. So movie theaters, restaurants, those are big establishments. They're opening already in a couple days on Friday. They're in Texas. What do you expect to see as far as the public view?
Well, ensuring proper spacing between patrons is going to be a must. That will never go away. And can picture this: when you are in a movie theater, every party needs to keep at least 2 seats apart. To make sure that there is proper distancing between patrons or parties. Every row will be, or every other row will also have to be left empty. So picture that in a scenario. So that will be how movie theaters will operate in Texas come Friday. And this kind of seating arrangement is also going to be applied for churches and houses of worship. For restaurants, 6 feet distance is also a must. But if this is not feasible, patrons are encouraged to take other measures like covering their faces while not sitting on tables, hand hygiene, cough etiquettes, and things like that. It should also be noted, or it will be noted, that there will be no tables of more than 6 people. Tables unoccupied will also be left empty. No traditional tabletops will be left on unoccupied tables. No condiments, no glassware, no silverware. And condiments will only be given to you upon request and for single serve only. So there will be no reused portions. Disposable menus will also be provided, so every patron will have a new menu when they go to the restaurants. And if there is a buffet or buffet is offered to these restaurants, you cannot go there. The employee of the restaurant will have to serve the customer. Well, these are just some of the things we expect as the state of Texas reopens on Friday. But like I said earlier, for more details, everyone is encouraged to go to the Governor's Strike Force website, where the governors report details of the protocols, the standards, and things that everyone should follow, be it individuals, employees, or employers, as well as the business sectors.
Well, that sounds like a great deal for me as far as like movie theaters having extra spacing, because there's nothing more annoying as a movie watcher than someone, you know, breathing down your neck or someone right next to you. So I guess that's good news. As far as the phase one, it seems like there's a lot opening. How about the How about the facilities and establishments that will remain closed? Do you have a couple of those?
Yes, not everything will be open. So places like public swimming pools, bars, gyms, cosmetology salons, massage establishments, interactive amusement venues such as bowling alleys and video arcades, as well as tattoo and piercing studios. This will have to be remain closed.
So nail salons will stay closed?
Yeah.
Well, we have a story on that later for all you watching. So appreciate your report, Nita. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken.
Washington State relaxes pandemic restrictions on recreational activities. In Seattle, we have friend Delpha Heron with the story.
Hi, Ken. Thank you so much. Hope you're doing well.
I am.
Washingtonians. Yes. So Washingtonians, I hope you feel proud of yourselves. Because of your compliance, we are seeing the flattening of the curve, which have allowed our government, our state government, to be confident in releasing and relaxing some restrictions when it comes to the recreational activities. Now, Washington State, as you can see through the pictures there, Washington State is known for a high-level outdoor recreation place in terms of our trails, our parks, our beaches, our lakes, and other outdoor recreational areas. So to have some of these restrictions lifted or relaxed means a lot to us, especially to know that this being outdoors actually helps, and it helps us, you know, keeping and maintaining mental health as well as our relationship with our family. And so on May 5th, this is when it's going to commence. Now, in preparation, the government is advising that all of those that are to operate and man the activities and the outdoor recreational areas, that they are authorized to go back to work. And when they do open up these areas and the parks and the lakes and so forth, there are measures that have to be observed. And thankfully, Washington State Department of Natural Resources have joined hands with REI on a social media campaign, hashtag Recreating Responsibly. And so what this is advocating is to really educate the residents to know how to properly conduct themselves when they are out there doing these recreational activities. And I wanted to go into depth about what these are, but beforehand, here is a special quote from Hilary France, Commissioner of Public Lands. She says that reconnecting people with nature is the first step of a long journey back to normalcy. So in order for us to get there, we have to take these steps, and thankfully we get to enjoy it with our nature. So how can we recreate responsibly? So recreating responsibly, we have to come prepared. Visitors may find that that restrooms are limited, right? So you have to bring your own toilet paper, which you'll probably have no problems because you have like 10 billion rolls in your home. So bring your own toilet paper, your soap, your water, anything that you would need to use the restroom, because again, we have to keep in mind that workers are coming back to work slowly. So they're going to be opening different facilities, at their own time. It's not all going to be open at once. Stay close to home. This is not the time to travel long distance to recreate. If your destination is crowded, go somewhere else and come back another time. Don't take unnecessary risks. So healthcare workers and first responders have been working so hard for us to slow the spread of COVID-19 as well as all of us. So this includes to not take any risk. This includes us not attending or hosting gatherings at the beaches or cookouts and or barbecues. Practice physical distancing and good hygiene. So there's a lot there, and also leave no trace. So when you go out and you're enjoying yourselves, make sure that you pick up after yourself as well. And this is what I found pretty interesting. So we are allowed to go out there, but they are advising us that the only people we can hang out with out there is, guess what? Our family, our household. They are telling us to, minimize or to not go with other families as well, because if we do, we are going to be, just giving more avenues to the potential spread of COVID-19. So Washingtonians, let's continue to do our part. So come May 5th, we can go out and enjoy the nature, the parks, the trails, once again with our families. From Seattle, Washington, Frendel Beheron, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Frendel, thank you so much. I think I mentioned this the last time we were on air together. Washington has some of the best air in the nation. However, keeping that in mind, what should people think of or keep in mind themselves while practicing social physical distancing along with good hygiene, when they're able to go back to the parks next week?
Perfect. I love that question. So we still have to maintain the 6 feet between you and those outside. If you come across others, make sure that you have your face covering on. If you don't, you better cover your face, right? And also, it says leave at least one parking space between you and the other vehicle, and wash your hands often and try not to touch your face. So these are some of the things that we've all been practicing since we were children, and all the more right now. Practice good hygiene and bring your own water. Again, bring your own soap, your own sanitizer, facial covering, and be aware of high traffic surfaces and avoid them. So pretty much keep your arms and legs to yourself and do not touch anything that you feel is, predominantly touched all the time.
That extra space parking rule is amazing. So it'll help us avoid getting those unnecessary dents from like random strangers opening their doors. So that's good. I think that should be a rule universally.
Yes, I agree, Ken.
Yeah, thank you so much. The Los Angeles County Public Health Department launches the Cover Up LA County Initiative. John Akuma in Los Angeles with more.
Thank you, Ken. In the Los Angeles County, the total number of confirmed cases is 22,485, with 1,056 deaths announced today by the Los Angeles Public Health Department. Meanwhile, in the state of California, as now 507 confirmed COVID-19 and 1,875 deaths, as recorded by the Johns Hopkins University and the Medicine of Coronavirus Resource Center. Yesterday, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti announced that the city of Los Angeles has reached an agreement to purchase 24 million N95 masks to be distributed at cost to the hospital in need and will be given to first responders. The first batch of 100,000 will be delivered by May. Mayor Garcetti also reminded Angelenos that any N95 mask should be reserved for first responder and medical personnel. For continuous effort in protecting ourselves and others from COVID-19 in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Public Health Department created a Cover Up LA County initiative to remind Angelenos when and where to require to wear face cloth covering. Although recommended to be prepared to have a face cloth covering handy at all times, it's only required when using riding public transportation, using rideshare services, and entering any essential businesses such as banks and grocery stores. Other activity where it is recommended but not required is going out for a jog or a walk, hanging out in the yard, or taking your dog out for a walk. For many, using a face mask covering may be uncomfortable to wear or be difficult to communicate with. Isabel Appel, a 17-year-old teenager from Thousand Oaks, California, is currently devoting her time designing a face mask for those of the deaf community. These masks are designed with a clear vinyl center, allowing people the ability to read lips of the ones who are speaking with. According to Appel, any proceeds from the mask will be given to the Hearing Aid Project, a one-of-a-kind collaboration created by the Hearing Charity of America and the Department of Speech, Language, and Hearing, Science and Disorder of the University of Kansas, which provide free hearing aids for those who cannot afford them. In Los Angeles, California, John Akuma, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Appreciate it, John. So are you finding that most Angelenos are actually complying with the Cover Up LA County initiative?
When I'm out in public, I've noticed that most are wearing some type of face mask. And there's no reason not to. You can use old t-shirts, old towels, as for me, bandanas, which I found in the back of my drawer, which can be easily be made into a face mask.
Nice set. Appreciate that, John. Thank you so much. Coming up, live COVID-19 updates from our correspondents in Latin America. Eagle News will return shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching the EBC International coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Ken Cruz in Fort Washington. Guatemala will remain in a state of calamity for the next 30 days. Eagle News correspondent Nadine Duenas in Ciudad de Guatemala reports.
Hola, Ken. How are you doing?
Bien. You do?
Well, thank you so much for today. Today was published on the Gazette or Official Journal of the Republic of Guatemala, El Diario de Centroamérica, the approval of the executive petition to the Congress through Government Decree number 8/2020, the extension to 30 days of the state of calamity, meaning Guatemala will be in state of calamity until June 4th, which originally would be in effect until Sunday, May 3rd. This proposal has arisen due to the increment of COVID-19 cases in the country these past 2 weeks, which increased from 20 cases daily to 40. The executive board deemed necessary the extension to continue avoiding the propagation of the virus and to increase the impact of it. Nevertheless, the Secretary of the Presidential Social Communications, Carlos Sandoval, emphasized that the extension of the state of calamity does not mean that the presidential provisions, such as the curfew hour and the suspension of some sectors and public transportation, will remain the same. These will vary weekly, and President Giammattei will announce which provisions will continue during the week and which ones will cease to have effect. For this week, the same presidential provisions from last week will be in effect until May 4th, such as social distancing rules requiring people to stay at least 1.5 meters apart and the mandatory use of face masks in all public spaces. The changes are the following for this week. The circulation within departments continues to be restricted for Guatemala, Zacatepeques, Chimaltenango, Ading, El Progreso, allowing to travel though within the other departments in the rest of the country. Also, there was an establishment of the Comité de Contención de Gasto, which will help the executive contain the government expenditure. To the date, here in Guatemala, there are 557 confirmed COVID-19 cases, 477 active cases, 16 COVID-19 deaths related, and 62 recovered. En Ciudad de Guatemala, Nadine Dueñas, Eagle News. Vivimos en tiempos interesantes.
Nadine, so how do you think the state of calamity will affect the travel coming in and out of Guatemala?
Well, actually, here in Guatemala, since March 16, President Giammattei already announced the closure of all frontiers, which initially would last only for 15 days, but it was ratified, and the Guatemalan authorities further stated that all international and domestic flights will remain suspended until Thursday, April 30, with the exception of certain humanitarian, medical, or official flights. Right now, everybody's still waiting to see when will our frontiers be open again.
So a little bit like us here in the United States.
Yes, I'm actually stuck here. I can't go back to Mexico yet.
Well, hopefully it won't be another 30 days, but wishing you health and wealth. Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Median General Hospital expands to avoid crossing of COVID-19 and non-COVID-19 patients. Janica Era Peralta in Median has the story.
Gracias, Ken. First, let us see the current number of cases in Colombia. There are a total of 6,207 cases and 278 deaths. There have been 1,411 patients who have recovered. In Medellin, Colombia, the Center of Health implemented the expansion of the general hospital to avoid having COVID-19 patients and others with different medical necessities in each other's vicinity. Mario Vallego, the assistant manager of Medellin General Hospital, said, quote, "What we want to avoid is that there will be crossing of the patients, and we have the hospital divided in various sectors. The first is for the symptomatic patients. They enter into service in that we call green zone. There's another zone for pregnant women and kids who do not have symptoms. They created an area with pre-hospital personnel receive patients and consult them for the symptoms they may present and to locate them to the corresponding sectors." Mr. Vallego also explained that the personnel will be in charge of doing a trial. If you quote, "If you have respiratory symptoms, we will direct you to the first zone. And what's important about this is that this system is done with the entire hospital. All the intensive care units, surgery, pediatrics are completely divided to guarantee to the people that there will not be any possible pathological interaction." In Colombia, Janica Ira Peralta, Eagle News. Vivimos en tiempos interesantes.
Janica, thanks so much. 2 days ago, you actually reported regarding the start of Pico y Kedula. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. How's that been implemented so far? Yeah, so how's that implementation?
It has been followed by the citizens very well, and the ones allowed to go outside for today are the ones with the numbers ending 1 or 2.
Oh, wow. All right, so let's, are you 1 or 2?
I'm not. I use the passport as an identity, so it's a tourist. As a tourist, it's not considered.
Appreciate it. Noted. Thank you so much, Janica. Panama's Kedula, or IDs, will now also serve as debit cards to use for purchase of basic necessities. Eagle News correspondent May Davila in Ciudad de Panama reports.
Hola, Ken, y todos los televidentes. Here in Panama, President Laurentino Cortizo announced this Wednesday that starting at 8 a.m. on Thursday, April 30, he will initiate the activation of the digital voucher with the use of the National Identification Card or Cedula as a payment system. They will carry out massive transfers of social aid programs assigned to the Cedula number of each beneficiary. This will allow the people to purchase using their national ID as a debit card by reading the barcode. Also, the user will be able to use the voucher by entering the ID number in case the store does not have a 2D scanner or if the ID shows any physical deterioration that does not allow the code to be read. Quote, Panama is the first country on the continent and one of the first countries in the world to use that ID card to buy food, medicine, and cleaning and hygiene items. We are the reference in technological innovation in America, unquote, Cortizo expressed on his Twitter account. Total amount to be distributed in this first phase is $6.7 million, where each beneficiary will receive $80 monthly. This will benefit 84,000 individuals, and among them will be workers whose contracts has been suspended, ticket vendors registered in the National Charity Lottery, peddlers registered in the Municipality of Panama, and artists registered with the Ministry of Art. Initially, this mode of payment will be accepted in 13 major supermarkets in the country, where they will be able to shop for food, medicine, and cleaning materials. The government also promised that soon, it will also be allowed to be used in mini supermarkets and grocery stores. The Executive Department activated the Panama Solidario website or www.panamasolidario.gov.pa where people can enter their cedula number to check if they are entitled to receive the $80 social aid from the government. En Ciudad de Panama, May Davila, Eagle News, vivimos en tiempos interesantes.
May, so I hear it's your birthday tomorrow, is that correct?
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, very happy birthday, early birthday to you from all of us here at Eagle News. Thank you so much.
Mil gracias.
Well, I got a question for you. So, are there restrictions on what can be purchased using the cedula or the debit card?
The supermarkets will only allow the use of the cedula as a voucher in the purchase of the basic necessities, which are food, medicine, and hygiene and cleaning products.
Well, I hope you can get the best of cleaning products for your birthday. Okay, appreciate it.
Yes, I'll need it.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Up next, if you can't go to see the cherry blossoms, we'll teach you how to have them on your fingertips. We'll return in a moment. This is Eagle News.
It's time to take one step further and face the impossible. Time to search the unknown and fight for the truth. Time to overcome boundaries and connect the world. It's time for DW News.
You're watching the EDC international coverage of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic North America edition. I'm Ken Cruz. So it's cherry blossom season, but because of the stay-at-home orders, it's difficult to see them up close this year. But fret not. For those of you who are into nail art, you can have these beautiful flowers right on your fingertips. EBC friend Jehan Yap in North Hollywood shows us how.
Today, we will be demonstrating to you how to create a cherry blossom type nail art. Make sure your cuticles are pushed back, trimmed, and that your nails are all filed evenly to the shape of your desire. Now, when applying your base coat, make sure that each layer is thin and even. Then let it dry before applying your color. For this design, a soft or natural colored platform will be ideal in contrasting the nail art. As you can see, we're using a rose gold shimmer as the base. Once again, make sure each application is thin and even, letting each layer dry before adding on the next coat. Don't worry about getting the polish on your skin. You can always clean it up at the end. After the nail polish has dried, we can start with the branch. Using a black colored polish on a very thin nail art brush, drag it across the nail, whichever direction you want, and stop near the end of the nail, not all the way. Add extensions to your main branch. Try not to make the branch straight. The more crooked it is, the better. This will give it its natural look. Next will be the cherry blossom flowers. Using a white colored polish, paint out a droplet-shaped petal and arrange them together to form a flower. You could do 4 petals or 5 petals, 3 or 2. Do a combination with different sizes and spread them about on the branch. Try not to make them look perfect. The less perfect it is, the more perfect it looks. Ironic, right? Next up is to add definition to each petal. This will be done by dabbing on pink-colored polish on top of each white petal. Then, using your black color once more, add in black dots on the middle area of your flowers. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. It's prettier and more natural this way. Take your white polish and add in random dots around the sides of your flowers and the branch. This will represent the buds of the cherry blossom. Repeating the same process earlier, apply the pink polish on top of the white dots. This will give depth to the flower sprouts. Next up are the leaves. Take your green colored polish and paint out a soft diamond-shaped piece next to the flower. Place them in between the petals. Scatter the leaves around and try not to add too many of them. They are only an accent part of the design. Lastly, after polishing the rest of your nails, apply the top coat for a shine finish. And there you have it, a cherry blossom nail art. In Van Nuys, California, Jehan Yap, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Eagle Broadcasting Corporation invites you to our 52nd anniversary event, Enjoy Music Beyond the Crisis. It's an online concert that started last Sunday and will happen again on May 3rd, 10th, and 17th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Philippine time. It's an e-concert for a cause streamed on all social media channels of EBC to help our frontliners, healthcare workers, and communities affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. A few reminders before we end today. Wash your hands, often with soap and water. Cover your mouth and nose if sneezing or coughing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Avoid contact with sick people. If you're sick, stay home and call your healthcare provider. Practice social distancing. Keep distance between yourself and others and avoid crowds. Wear a protective face covering when out in public. Let's continue to thank our frontline and essential workers with a round of applause. We thank you. That is today's EBC International coverage of the Coronavirus Pandemic North America edition. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ken Cruz. We live in interesting times.